Now, in the last video in this course, we looked at the concept of buffered channels and how we could use them to effectively communicate between multiple Go routines running within our Go application. Now, in this video, we're going to be looking at the topic of wait groups in Go and how we can use them to block the execution of our Go applications until a series of Go routines have completed their own execution. So why is this useful, you might ask? Well, imagine we had a substantial amount of work that we had to do within a function, and we wanted to effectively split it up to execute across multiple Go routines. Well, in this case, we would want to ensure that every Go routine was complete and it had finished compiling or computing that chunk of work before our function returned the response. So let's see an example of this in a small Go application that queries a number of URLs. We could have a string or a slice of URLs at the top. Let's say https google.com. Let's do https twitter.com. And of course, let's do my own site, tutorialedge.net, like so. So we've got this list of URLs. Let's now define a function. So let's do crawl, and let's do the following. So for underscore URL in range URLs, let's do go fetch, and we'll pass in this URL. Now let's define this fetch function. So this is going to do the HTTP request. So func fetch takes in a URL type string, and let's do response or error is equal to http.get the URL. If the error is not null, let's just print it out for now. Otherwise, fmt println, let's print the response.status, so the code that we receive whenever we fetch this or any of these pages with a HTTP GET request. Now let's call this crawl function within the main function. So crawl, and let's try and run this. So save, go run main.go. It's going to go away. It's going to call this crawl function, which is then going to spin up a new Go routine for each of these URLs within this string slice at the top. And each of these Go routines is then going to subsequently try and perform a GET request and then printing out the response.status. Now you'll notice that the go run command that we've just run there has terminated and there has been no output. Now this is effectively because the crawl function that we have called has terminated before the Go routines that it has created have had a chance to execute. Cool, so let's see how wait groups can solve this problem. So I'm going to define a new wait group, so var, we'll call it WG, and it's from the sync package, and it's called a wait group, like so. I'm going to save that, and we should see that the sync package is automatically imported at the top, and it is. And the next thing we need to do is to pass this wait group to our fetch Go routine. So I'm going to do that as a second parameter. So I'm going to reference it, and I'm going to update the arguments up here, and I'm going to say wait group is equal to a pointer to type sync.waitGroup, like so. Cool. So adding this doesn't necessarily mean we're finished. We need to somehow update the wait group whenever we add a new URL or a Go routine. So in order to do that, we can do waitGroup.add, and this effectively increments the counter within the wait group. So what do I mean by the counter? Well, within the wait group object, we have an internal counter that we can block until it's decremented to 0. And in order to block, we can call the waitGroup.wait function. So as you can see from the definition, wait blocks until the wait group counter is 0. And then within the body of the Go routine or the function, we then need to say waitGroup.done, which will decrement the wait group counter by 1. So let's run this through. So we have the wait group, the counter at this point is 0. We then want to spin up a new Go routine or several new Go routines for each of the URLs. We then have to increment the counter by 1 for every go routine that we want to add. So the first one is going to be 1, 2, 3. When they're finished, they'll decrement. So 3, 2, 1 down to 0. And at this point, our waitGroup.wait function call here will then allow the execution of the rest of the function. So finished crawling URLs. Cool, so let's see this in action. So once again, let's go into the terminal, go run main.go. And this time you'll see that we have all of the responses from each of the websites within our string slice at the top here. They're all showing 200 and okay, thankfully. They're all in a good healthy state. And we have ensured that we blocked all of the further execution of the crawl function until after this waitGroup.wait function has returned, and then we've printed out finished crawling URLs. Cool, so that's all we're going to cover in this video. Just to quickly recap, in this video we've looked at how we can instantiate a wait group. We've then looked at how we can increment the counter within that wait group for every go routine that we create. We've looked at how we can decrement it when the execution of those go routines is complete. And we've then looked at how we can block the execution of our functions by calling this wait function here.